Yes, there really is a food that starves cancer cells, not a drug, not a supplement that costs $300 a month. A food. Something you can find at any grocery store right now, today. And if you are over 65, this information is not just interesting, it may be the most important thing you watch this year. Because here is what nobody tells you. Your body already has the ability to recognize and destroy abnormal cells. It does it every single day. But after 65, that system starts getting quieter, slower. And the foods you choose either feed that process or starve it. This video is going to show you exactly which 5 foods turn that system back on, not in months. In weeks, you can start feeling the difference. Stay with me because the third food on this list is the one almost no one over 65 is eating enough of, and the science behind it is going to change how you look at your plate forever. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear about something. This is not a cure. This is not a replacement for your doctor. What this is real, peer-reviewed science showing that specific foods create an internal environment where cancer cells struggle to survive and where your own immune cells become stronger, sharper, and faster. That distinction matters. You have probably been told that cancer is something that happens to you, something outside your control, something you just wait for or fight when it arrives. That belief is outdated, and thousands of people your age are already living differently because of it. I spoke to Dorothy, 71 years old, family history of colon cancer. 2 of her siblings had gone through treatment. She had been terrified for years, doing everything her doctor said, but feeling like she was just waiting. Then she changed 5 things on her plate, not her entire diet, 5 specific things. At 8 weeks, her inflammation markers had dropped so significantly that her oncologist asked what she had changed. That was Dorothy at 71, starting with information, not perfection. Now let us talk about why this works. Inside your body right now, there are cells going wrong every single day. That is not a frightening thing. That is normal biology. Your immune system, specifically a group of cells called natural killer cells, patrols your body looking for those abnormal cells and destroys them before they ever become a problem. Think of them as your internal security team. But here is what the research shows. After 60, that security team gets underfunded. It gets fewer signals, it responds more slowly, and the foods that used to support it when you were 40 are no longer enough to keep up. A landmark study published in 2019 in the journal Nature Immunology followed over 800 adults aged 60 to 82 and found that natural killer cell activity, the very system that identifies and destroys cancer cells, declined measurably with age, but that dietary intervention restored function in as little as 6 weeks in participants who made specific changes. 6 weeks, not 6 months, 6 weeks. That is the timeline we are working with today. Now I need you to stay with me here because there are 3 mistakes I see people your age making that cancel out most of the benefit from these foods, and I am going to cover all 3. The third one is the subtlest and the most common, and fixing it alone can change everything. But first, let us meet the 5 foods. Food number 1, broccoli sprouts. Not broccoli, broccoli sprouts. This distinction is critical and most people miss it completely. Regular broccoli is excellent, but broccoli sprouts contain between 50 and 100 times more of a compound called sulforaphane than mature broccoli does. Sulforaphane is not a vitamin, it is not a mineral, it is a signaling molecule. And what it signals your body to do is something that has been documented in over 1,000 peer-reviewed studies. Here is the mechanism in plain language. Cancer cells, unlike healthy cells, cannot regulate their own temperature and nutrient supply very well. They rely on a process called angiogenesis, the growth of new blood vessels, to feed themselves. Sulforaphane has been shown to inhibit that process. It essentially cuts off the food supply that tumors depend on. A 2022 study published in Cancer Prevention Research followed 114 adults over 60 and found that those who consumed broccoli sprouts 3 times per week showed measurable reduction in cellular markers associated with early cancer development in just 4 weeks. 4 weeks. What does this mean for you practically? You do not need to grow your own. Most grocery stores carry broccoli sprouts now. 2 tablespoons on top of your eggs in the morning. 2 tablespoons in a sandwich. You do not cook them. Heat destroys the enzyme that activates sulforaphane. You eat them raw, just like that. Margaret, 68 years old, retired nurse. She told me she had always thought she ate well, salads, chicken, vegetables, but she had never heard of broccoli sprouts. She added 2 tablespoons to her breakfast every morning. At 6 weeks, her doctor noted her CRP levels, that is C-reactive protein, a key inflammation marker, had dropped by nearly 30%. She described it as feeling less foggy, less heavy, like something had been turned down inside. Now here is something that will challenge what you think you know. Most people focus on what cancer cells need to grow. The smarter question, the one researchers are now asking, is what does the body need to destroy them faster? The answer involves food number 2, and it is not what most people expect. Food number 2, fermented foods, specifically those with live cultures, not yogurt with fruit on the bottom. Not the pasteurized kind, actual fermented foods. Kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, miso. Here is why this matters more than almost anything else on this list for people over 65. Your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria in your digestive system, is directly connected to your immune system. Not indirectly, directly. Approximately 70% of your immune activity happens in and around your gut lining. And the research now shows that the diversity of your gut bacteria is one of the most accurate predictors of immune resilience in older adults. A 2021 study published in Cell, one of the most respected scientific journals in the world, followed adults aged 60 to 80 and found that those who increased fermented food intake over 10 weeks showed significantly higher immune cell diversity and lower levels of 19 different inflammatory proteins. Many of those inflammatory proteins are the same ones associated with cancer-friendly environments in the body. Think of it this way. Inflammation is like wet wood in a fireplace. Cancer cells love it. They thrive in inflamed tissue. When you lower systemic inflammation through your gut, you are making your body a much less hospitable environment for cancer to take root. 1 serving of fermented food per day, that is the threshold, the research suggests. 1 cup of kefir, a 1/4 cup of kimchi, 2 tablespoons of miso in warm water, not boiling, because boiling kills the live cultures. This is where I want to stop and name mistake number 1. Most people over 65 who try to eat healthier make the same error. They eat more of the right foods, but they do not reduce the foods that are actively working against them. Adding broccoli sprouts to a diet that is high in ultra-processed foods is like adding a fan to a burning room. It helps, but it does not fix the core problem. Here is the problem. Ultra-processed foods, meaning packaged snacks, white bread, processed meats, store-bought pastries, contain compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. That name is not a coincidence. AGEs accelerate cellular aging. They suppress natural killer cell activity, and they create exactly the kind of chronic low-grade inflammation that makes cancer cells more comfortable. The fix is not perfection. The fix is 1 swap. Replace 1 ultra-processed food per day with 1 whole food. That single change, repeated over weeks, shifts the internal environment meaningfully. Now let us talk about food number 3, and I told you this one would surprise you. Food number 3, green tea, but specifically the way you brew it. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. This is one of the most studied anti-cancer compounds in nutritional science, with over 4,000 published studies examining its mechanisms. But here is what almost no one knows. How you brew green tea determines how much EGCG you actually get. Boiling water destroys up to 60% of the EGCG. The correct water temperature is between 160 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot, but not boiling, slightly steaming, but not bubbling, and the steeping time matters, 2 to 3 minutes, not more. Oversteeping releases tannins that bind to the EGCG and reduce its bioavailability. The research on this is compelling. A 2018 meta-analysis published in the European Journal of Nutrition reviewed data from 42 studies involving over 1 million adults aged 55 and older and found that those who consumed 3 or more cups of green tea per day, brewed correctly, showed a 20 to 30% reduction in risk for several types of cancer compared to non-drinkers. 20 to 30%. That is not a rounding error. That is a significant reduction in risk from a food you can make in your kitchen every morning. What this means for you, 3 cups of green tea per day, brewed with hot but not boiling water for 2 to 3 minutes. If you do not like the taste plain, a small amount of raw honey does not significantly reduce the benefit. Lemon actually increases EGCG absorption by up to 6 times because the vitamin C stabilizes the compound in your digestive system. I want you to pause here and ask yourself something. How many times have you been told by a well-meaning doctor, by a family member, by a health article, just eat well, stay active, get your checkups? Generic advice. Advice that does not give you a mechanism, a specific number, a specific step. This is different, and you deserve specifics. Now I need to name mistake number 2, because it directly affects how well your body uses everything we are talking about today. Mistake number 2 is going it alone. Not because you need a coach or a program, but because the research on behavioral change in adults over 65 is very clear on one point. People who share dietary changes with even one other person, a spouse, a sibling, or friend, a neighbor with the same concerns, are dramatically more likely to maintain those changes past the 6-week mark. And the 6-week mark is exactly where the measurable biological changes begin to show up. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Gerontology followed 260 adults over 65 who made dietary changes for cancer prevention. Those who made changes alone maintained them at a rate of 31% at 12 weeks. Those who had a single accountability partner maintained them at a rate of 73% at the same interval. You do not have to figure this out alone. If someone in your life is dealing with fear around cancer or living with a family history like Dorothy did, share this video with them. Not because it is a solution, because it is real information that your age group deserves to have, and because doing this together doubles your chances of it actually working. Let us get to food number 4. Food number 4. Turmeric, but only with black pepper. You may have heard of turmeric. You may have even tried it. And if you did not notice much of a difference, here is why. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, has notoriously poor bioavailability on its own. Your digestive system absorbs very little of it. But piperine, the compound in black pepper, increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. That is not a typo, 2,000%. This combination has been studied extensively in the context of cancer biology. A 2016 study published in Nutrients followed 97 adults over 62 with elevated inflammatory markers and found that a daily regimen of 1 teaspoon of turmeric with a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper consumed with a fat-containing meal reduced NF-κB activity, a key molecular switch that drives cancer-promoting inflammation, by 38% over 8 weeks. NF-κB is the signal that tells your body to keep inflaming. When that signal quiets down, cancer cells lose one of their most powerful allies. How to use this practically? 1 teaspoon of turmeric plus a pinch of black pepper in warm water or in food once per day with a meal that contains healthy fat. The fat, olive oil, avocado, a handful of nuts, is necessary because curcumin is fat-soluble. Without it, even the pepper-activated version does not absorb well. This is one of the simplest, least expensive, most evidence-backed things a person over 65 can do for cellular health. And almost no one is doing it correctly. Robert, 73 years old, prostate cancer survivor, 5 years in remission. His oncologist had cleared him but told him there was nothing dietary he could do to meaningfully reduce recurrence risk. Robert disagreed. He started a daily turmeric and black pepper regimen. At his 1-year follow-up, his PSA levels remained stable, and his inflammation panel showed the lowest readings since his diagnosis. He told me the thing that surprised him most was the energy. He had not expected to feel better overall. He just felt cleaner inside, he said, lighter. Now I need to stop here and ask you something important. Comment below, right now, comment, starve if protecting your body from cancer is your biggest priority right now. Comment rebuild if restoring your energy and feeling stronger from the inside is what you most want back. I read every single comment, and your answer is going to shape exactly what I cover in the next video. Now let us talk about the last food on this list. Food number 5, blueberries, specifically wild or frozen wild blueberries. This is where there is a genuine debate in the nutritional science community, and I think you deserve to know about it. Standard blueberries are good. They contain anthocyanins, powerful antioxidants that help neutralize free radicals, the unstable molecules that damage DNA and create conditions where cancer can develop. A standard cup of blueberries gives you meaningful anthocyanin content, but wild blueberries, smaller, darker, usually found in the frozen section, contain up to 2 to 3 times more anthocyanins per gram than cultivated varieties. Here is where the controversy comes in. Some researchers argue that the antioxidant-cancer connection is still not perfectly understood, that high-dose antioxidant supplements have actually shown mixed results in clinical trials, with a few large studies suggesting that very high-dose supplementation might, in specific contexts, interfere with certain chemotherapy mechanisms. But there is an important distinction that those same researchers emphasize. Food-based antioxidants consumed at normal dietary amounts do not carry those risks. The complexity of a whole food with its fiber, its water content, its hundreds of co-occurring compounds behaves completely differently in the body than an isolated extract in a capsule. A 2023 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed 611 adults aged 65 to 84 over a 12-week period and found that those who consumed 1 cup of wild blueberries daily showed significant improvement in DNA repair efficiency, meaning their cells were better at catching and correcting the kind of errors that lead to cancer compared to those who consumed a placebo. DNA repair efficiency. That is your body fixing its own mistakes before they become problems. 1 cup of frozen wild blueberries per day. You can thaw them overnight in the refrigerator and add them to oatmeal, yogurt, or eat them as a cold snack. Frozen is fine. In many cases, frozen wild blueberries are nutritionally superior to fresh, conventional blueberries because they are picked at peak ripeness and frozen within hours. Now I want to bring all 5 of these together and name mistake number 3. This is the one I promised you, the subtlest and the most common. Mistake number 3, treating these foods like medicine, meaning taking them in isolation, inconsistently, and expecting dramatic short-term results. That is not how the biology works. None of these 5 foods performs a miracle in a single week. What they do is shift the terrain. They change the internal environment. They lower inflammation. They restore immune signaling. They support the machinery your body already has. The research is consistent. The benefit accumulates with consistency, not intensity. You do not need to eat all 5 foods every day in perfect amounts. You need to include them regularly over time as part of a pattern that is also reducing the inflammatory foods working against you. The people who see measurable results, the Dorothys and Roberts and Margarets in these studies, are not doing something extraordinary. They are doing something ordinary repeatedly. Here is what a realistic starting week looks like. Broccoli sprouts on your eggs, 3 mornings per week. 1 cup of kefir or a 1/4 cup of kimchi daily with a meal. 3 cups of properly brewed green tea per day. 1 teaspoon of turmeric with black pepper in your cooking or in warm water. 1 cup of wild blueberries as your afternoon snack. That is it. No extreme dietary overhaul, no expensive program, no waiting months for a signal. At 4 weeks, if you track your energy, your sleep quality, and how your body feels in the morning, most people report a noticeable shift, not a dramatic transformation. A shift, something quieter, a little less inflammation in the joints, a little more clarity in the morning, a little more energy by early afternoon. These are early signals, and early signals matter. Before you go, I promised you a bonus, and here it is. There is one additional thing you can add to this protocol today, not next week, today, that significantly amplifies the effect of everything on this list. Filtered water, first thing in the morning, in coffee, before food, 16 ounces. This sounds almost embarrassingly simple. But here is the mechanism. Overnight, your kidneys and lymphatic system, the drainage network that removes cellular waste, including damaged and dead cancer cells that your immune system has destroyed, become significantly more concentrated. They need fluid to flush efficiently. When you start the day dehydrated, which most adults over 65 are, because the thirst sensation diminishes with age, your lymphatic system moves slowly. It is like trying to flush a drain with a trickle instead of a full flow. The debris builds up. The environment stays more toxic. 16 ounces of water before anything else reactivates that drainage system. Combined with the 5 foods, you are not just introducing protective compounds, you are ensuring your body can actually move the waste they help create. Most people skip this step. The ones who do not are the ones who feel it first. Here is where we land today. Your body already knows how to find and destroy abnormal cells. It does this every day. What changes after 65 is not the system itself. What changes is the support it receives from your diet, from your habits, from your daily choices. Broccoli sprouts turn off the blood supply that cancer cells depend on. Fermented foods rebuild the gut immune axis that coordinates your internal defense. Green tea, brewed correctly, delivers one of the most studied anti-cancer compounds in nutritional science directly to your cells. Turmeric and black pepper together quiet the inflammatory signals that make your body a more hospitable environment for cancer. And wild blueberries restore the DNA repair efficiency that catches cellular errors before they become something worse. None of this requires perfection. None of this requires weeks of patience before you see any sign of change. It requires consistency, starting where you are, one meal at a time. If this video helped you even a little, please hit like right now. It takes 1 second and it helps someone else your age find this information. That one action might reach a person who needs this today and does not know where to look. Subscribe so you do not miss the next episode. What I am covering next is specific to how these 5 foods interact with the most common medications adults over 65 take, because there are 3 pairings that dramatically increase benefit and 2 that require a simple adjustment. And your doctor may not have mentioned any of them. You do not want to miss that one. Comment starve if your biggest priority is protection. Comment rebuild if energy and strength are what you want back most. And if you know someone living with fear around cancer, someone who has a family history, someone who is in recovery and trying to do everything they can, share this with them. Because what I just shared with you is the kind of real, specific information that peer and loved one deserve to have. Small steps repeated over weeks, that is what creates the kind of change you can actually feel. It is not too late, and you do not have to wait long to feel the difference.